empowering you to understand that you have an option that actually exceeds reparations in terms of quality of outcome and possibilities, things like that. And so, in order to start this off, Carolyn Jackson and Paige Brackett, I see you in there, and Darlene Bramble and Gwen. Good morning, AC Salam and Gregory. So rather than sort of telling you, I thought I'd show you. So what I wanted to do was kind of do a little bit of a digital field trip really quickly, and play a video for you that I watched this morning on the treadmill. And it's from the site called the History Lounge, and it's just this video. I don't know if anybody else has ever done this, but sometimes I like watching videos about how people lived, like say 100 years ago, and it's fascinating to me from a consciousness standpoint, because part of consciousness is the ability to see the world from outside of yourself, to be able to see things in a way where you're not limited by time and space. A lot of us get caught in the moment. We it's 2024. We can't see 2034, 2044. We can't see 1904. And so a lot of times I will just sit and watch old videos, because I find that to be a really fascinating way to just count my blessings and kind of get insights into how hard people in the past had to work to create the life that we have now, what our ancestors went through in order for us to be where we are right now. When you think about how many Black people were literally murdered and killed um, over just trying to learn how to read, right? Just trying to learn how to read or whatever. And I just think that that's really fascinating, given that just less than 100 years later, we have millions of kids that wouldn't read a book if you put a gun to their head. And I just say, wow, what a long way we've come. And sometimes we come a long way positively. Sometimes we come a long way negatively. So what I want to do is to kind of set the tone for the message for today. I'm going to play this video for you all that I really think is going to give some insights, or so I hope it does. And so let me share the screen, and I'm going to need you all to let me know if you can hear the audio. I'm going to try to share the sound. So once I play this video, I'd like you to just give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear the audio, okay? And I'm going to start the video right now.
The 1920s were a time of unprecedented change in America. The world's first Great War was over, and people were itching to let loose. Let's see what it looked like, in color. Of course, the decade began on a sour note for many, as the 18th Amendment went into effect on January 17, 1920, making illegal the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors anywhere in the country. While this unfortunate law would remain in effect for the next 13 years, it failed to stop many from imbibing. The speakeasy was never too far away, and those who wanted a drink usually found a way to partake if they wanted. Throughout the decade, speakeasies and nightclubs became popular places for music, entertainment, and dancing. As manufacturers figured out how to produce cars more cheaply, automobiles became affordable enough for the average family to own one. Not only did mass car ownership make it quicker for people to get from point A to point B, but it also led to the paving of roads, the construction of bridges and tunnels, and to the sprouting of corner gas stations throughout cities and small towns alike. Of course, it took several decades for pavement to reach many rural areas, leading to scenes like this. Fortunately, help wasn't far off when it was needed. Meanwhile, cities had their own problems with cars as they struggled to get a handle on the new concepts of traffic management and safety. The 1920s was the first big decade for radio. Between 1923 and 1930, 60% of American households purchased radios, allowing families to listen to news, music, sports, and radio dramas, all from the comfort of their living rooms. Commercial air travel began to take off in the 1920s. For those who dared, they could purchase a ticket for one of 20 or so seats in an unpressurized, cold, and noisy cabin and fly to their destination quickly. Another option was to book a slower but more comfortable trip on an airship, an alternative that would become more common in the 1930s. For most travelers, however, railroads were the way to go, as the 1920s saw the rise of trains with luxurious features such as sleeping cars, fine dining, and comfortable lounges. Even subways and elevated trains for getting around locally were quite nice. The decade saw a building boom as more Americans left the farm and moved to the city. As people flocked to metropolitan areas, the face of retail began to change. The independent general store began to see increased competition from larger chains such as Woolworths and others, which expanded rapidly during this time. Massive department stores such as Macy's and Marshall Field's could be found in larger cities. Movie attendance soared in the 1920s. By the middle of the decade, 50 million people a week went to the movies. Following the introduction of sound in 1927, that number more than doubled. And as movies grew in popularity, Hollywood stars became household names. With more free time and the advent of affordable cars, the beach became a hot spot for leisure. Bathing suits became shorter, tans became fashionable, and the beach became synonymous with relaxation and fun. Everything continued to roar happily along until late in 1929 when suddenly, the decade of the 1930s was a totally different world. To see what happens, just click this next video.
All right. So, so I hope you all were able to get something from the video, which could easily be called, the history of white people, right? Lots of those images were white. But then again, though, I just want to make it clear, I don't wake up every day thinking about how much I dislike any other group of people. So that's not, hate is a heavy energy to carry around. I don't want to carry that with me. But really, though, when you really look at that image, in the images that were in this video, a few things that really popped out to me that I thought would make for a very interesting financial consciousness exercise, because that's what we do every morning at 10 a.m. is, we're really thinking about financial consciousness, right? Mindset, rising to higher dimensions, spreading out through time and space in order to better understand where we are. You can't understand where you are until you understand where you have been, where you're going, where you could have been, where you could be going. Do you understand? Let me know. Give me a yes if you're following what I'm saying. Let me know if you're following this. I'm going to get a little weird here. So understanding all these things allows you to triangulate, almost like a consciousness version of a GPS satellite. You can triangulate your location. You can figure out who you are and where you're at by looking at where you've been, where you're going, where you could have been, where you could have been going. What you are is only understood when you think about all the things you could have been. Right. This is, and again, that's the fifth dimension, by the way. That's called the fifth dimension. The sixth dimension is where God lives. I talk about this because yesterday when I was eating breakfast with my sister, she's a medical doctor. She cuts open dead bodies for a living. She literally does. She's a pathologist. That's what they call them. She does autopsies. And we were talking about our childhood, and we were talking about some very close friends of ours who we played with every single weekend, who both ended up on drugs. And I said, isn't it interesting that we were that close to them and things were so different? And we started to really dissect that, kind of just break it down. And I said, we could have easily been them. I could have easily been him. You could have easily been her. I could have easily had a sister on crack. You could have easily had a brother that was on, right? So really, again, I think that if you really want that consciousness of just knowing where you are, and we're going to get to the financial part, I promise you. But I want to start with the broader imagery here, because as you guys know, I don't look at investing like everybody else. I don't look at investing. I see investing where financial investing is only a small part of the investing that you make or the investing that you do. Wealth, only a small part of your wealth actually shows up in the form of money. And part of consciousness is being able to really see that, so that you can see not how much money you have or how to have more money. That comes with the package for sure, but also how to make sure that the money that you make fits into all the other assets that you have in your life. When I was in graduate school and teaching finance at Syracuse, we talked about portfolio management. And one of the things that we did in portfolio management is we taught students that you don't pick an investment just because it makes the most money. You have to look at how that investment fits with all the other investments that you already have. That's called correlation, the way that stock fits with all the other stocks you have. Just like when you get married, you can't go off and get married in a vacuum. You can't go off and meet somebody that you like and just bring that person home and say, hey, look at who I'm marrying. If you're smart, if you're a smart investor, you're going to do what? You're going to bring that lady around your mama and make sure that she gets along with your mama. You're going to make sure that she fits into the family. You're going to make sure that he can get along with your cousins and that he's going to fit with what the family's already doing. So before you make that investment, you can only understand an investment if you understand how it relates to other things around it. Just like with time and space, you can only understand who you are by knowing who you could have been, where you've been, where you're going, all these other things. So that's why I wanted to show you all this video. So I was watching this video, and clearly I was thinking about so much more than a lot of people would. I mean, first there's the obvious interesting part of it, just say, wow, 100 years ago, exactly 100 years ago, people were living very differently. People didn't the cars were raggedy as hell. They had no roads, so the cars are getting stuck in ditches. They had the speakeasies, and they were just getting into the building boom. They had the first airplanes, the first airships. They had the first airplanes didn't even have pressurized cabins, so they were freezing and half to death on the airplane. Right? And just so many interesting things. And what's interesting is that those who are living in that era, I bet 95% of them didn't have the consciousness to even think, like, what's the world going to be like 100 years from now? I bet 95% of the people living in 1924 didn't spend 1 second thinking about 2024. They didn't think about it at all. But there were some people who probably did. There were some people who probably sat around and said, I wonder what the world's going to be like 100 years from now. I wonder what my family is going to be doing 100 years from now. I wonder what my great great grandkids are going to be doing. It's not even great great. Some of y'all got great grandparents that were alive in 1924. I do. Well, I have a grandfather actually who's still alive, who was born in 1926. So his father was a full grown man in 1924. So I have a great grandfather who was alive, a great grandmother who was alive in 1924. So it's not that far back, right? So a couple of things that come to mind are, can you imagine how much of a profound head start you would have if you lived in 1924 and you just spent one moment meditating and gaining enough consciousness to even imagine 2024, to even try to imagine? They probably couldn't imagine. They couldn't imagine what our airplanes would look like relative to their planes. They couldn't imagine what society would be like and the things we'd be dealing with, the things that we could do from a technological standpoint. They couldn't imagine a cell phone. We sit on our phones and beep, beep, beep and get all the information in the world. They can't imagine that. That wasn't they weren't even close to that. So the same way they could not imagine the lives that you're living now, it's almost impossible for you and I to imagine what people are going to be able to do 100 years from now. 21, 24, we have very little concept of that, but we do have some things that we can tether ourselves to. Well, what can we connect to? Well, we can connect to some basic ideas. Like they mentioned how that in 1924, they had the first movie stars. For the first time, they had these people that were in these silent films who were becoming household names. And so now we got movie stars everywhere. What else? In 1924, they had the first automobiles, these ugly little raggedy things that got stuck in the mud. In 2024, cars are everywhere, roads are everywhere. All that's advanced. In 1924, they had the first airplanes, very first commercial flights. Well, now you fly commercial all the time. Some of y'all fly every single week, right? So we did have something. So if you lived in that time, you could have some vision of the future, but it's not going to be very accurate. But there would be some universal truths that would hold themselves to be real, no matter what era you lived in. And if you were really smart, if you really had consciousness at that time, you would be able to take a moment and reflect on how what you're seeing right now is really the building block of what you're going to see in the future. It's not where you are that matters. It's where you're going that matters even more. If you looked at Times Square in 1924, Times Square in 1924 was pretty amazing to people in 1924, but it was nothing compared to where it was going, what it looks like now in 2024. Do you understand? So where am I going with this? Well, where I'm going with this it's a couple directions. First off, it just videos like that. I have a love-hate relationship with videos like that because we know what our ancestors were going through. We know that even though we had great grandparents that were alive at that time, there were lots of white only signs, no coloreds allowed signs in all those spaces. A lot of those pictures, had images of really happy white people living a really happy life. And I would like I would like to believe my ancestors lived some of that life, but we know the reality of it. We know that they made an America that benefited white people that did not benefit us. We weren't allowed access to that, and that makes me very sad. And this is one of the reasons why I'm a strong supporter of reparations. If you look up the word reparations, that word, the origin of reparations is to repair, and it comes from the Latin word reparare, which means to restore or to make good again. So, in my view, any white person, any politician, any person that wants to do the right thing would want to join us in repairing what was taken from us. A lot of our birthright was stolen. They were building buildings and airplanes and everything. I wanted our ancestors to be a part of that, and we know that they were helping. But unlike the descendants of the people in those pictures, the smiling white people that you saw, who inherited Hollywood, who inherited the construction industry, who inherited the automobile industry, we didn't inherit any of that. We did not get our cut, right? So this is one political side of what I might take away from a video like that, is that I think that should make you really think about reparations and what was really lost and what we did not get to participate in terms of an inheritance, right? So that's the first thought. The second thought that I wanted to throw at you is this. Let's imagine that in 1924 you had a grandparent who, because you did have ancestors that were smart. We're not the first generation of intelligent Black people. There have been many thousands of generations of us before we got here. We're just the latest in a long line of intelligent Black people. They've always had this. And so imagine if you had that grandparent in 1924 who said, I'm going to have a legacy, and I got people coming behind me who are going to deal with the descendants of the same white folks that I'm dealing with. They're going to have economic challenges just like I have in the year 2024. They're probably going to need money just like I need money in 1924. Right now, I can buy a loaf of bread for 12 cents. For them, a loaf of bread might cost $2 or some ungodly amount of money that I can't even imagine. Right now, in 1924, I can buy a house for $2,000. In 2024, they'll probably have to spend $500,000 on a house, right? So remember, you had people like that. You had people that had that level of consciousness where they were connected to something bigger than themselves, and they understood something that you and I understand, which is that you're not more special than the group. You're not more special than the legacy. You're not more special than the entity that you're a part of, right? You're just not. We're important because right now in this moment we're important. This is our moment, but really once our moment is gone, it's over. It's over. It's about the bigger picture. And so if you can't connect to the bigger picture, then you don't exist. Do you understand? If you can't connect to something bigger than yourself, then you don't exist. You are a flash in time. You will be gone. You will be out of here. Nobody's going to remember. Ain't nobody going to be thinking about you in 2024. I hate to say it like that. Nobody. And me neither. And I'm kind of internet famous. I don't expect anybody to be thinking about me in 2024. The best I can hope for, because I have a decent sized platform, is the best I can hope for is that there's going to be somebody in 2024 who takes my ideas and steals them as their own and pretends like they're the first person to ever talk about Black wealth. That's okay. Take the ideas, take them. I don't care. I don't need the credit. I don't need the credit. I didn't invent wealth. I didn't invent investing. I didn't invent economic consciousness. That's always been there. So in the year 2124, thank you, Evelyn. She corrected me. It's 2124, not 2024. Sorry about that. In the year 2124, most of us won't be remembered hardly at all. And if you are remembered, it'll be like a flash in the pan, because how much time do you really spend in 2024 thinking about 1924? Right? And most people don't do that. Maybe historians do, and most people don't. So with that said, I want to give you a little fact that I hope will empower you and help you to truly expand your economic vision to understand a way that you can actually have immortality and be remembered and really have an impact where even if people don't remember you, they will be heavily affected by the choices that you make. Here is that fact. Let me lay this out for you. And I think I want to add this to the Black Wealth Master Plan. So let me pull this up. It was so profound. It happened to me on the trip. It was so profound. I had to write it down because I need you all to hear this. I said, I need to tell everybody this today. Did you know? Okay, so in 1924, the average income was approximately $1,230 a year. So $1,230. So imagine living off $1,200 a year. That's what they lived off of in 1924. What if you had invested, say, 10% of your income in the stock market in 1924? What if you just said, you know what, I don't have a lot. I only make the average American income, but I'm going to take 10% of my income and put it toward some sort of investment, some sort of capital base for my family, something for my legacy. Like my old grandma Marilda, who was also, I think Grandma Marilda was a teenager in 1924. She was my grandmother's mother. Even Grandma Marilda used to have a rule where she said she would put 10% aside for the Lord. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I necessarily am a person that would give 10% of my money to the pastor, because I don't see it as giving it to the Lord. If I want to give it to the Lord, I can give it to a homeless person. I can do the Lord's work in many places, but that's a personal decision. But I would also say, why not give 10% to your legacy, to your family, to your future self, to your financial security, because that's very important. You live in an insecure world. So let's say that a person in 1924 was investing, say, $12 a month, which would be about 10% of their income, and they put that money toward the S&P 500. And let's say that also they increase the amount by the rate of inflation, or approximately by about 2% per year. So in the first year, they put $12. Second year, they put $12 plus 2%. The next year, they'd add another 2%. And so the amount invested would slowly increase over time, but it would be very consistent and monthly. Do you know that by the year 2024, that family would be worth $37,602,193.32? So you would have a family 100 years from now. So even if you're an average American citizen with financial consciousness who simply just said, I can't do much, but I can do 10%. I'm going to do 10% because I'm committed to something bigger than myself, that in 100 years, that family is worth $37 million. Now, what's interesting about that too, that I want you to understand, is just because you're investing for the future of your family, that does not mean that you don't get to benefit. Just because you're investing for the next 100 years, that doesn't mean that you have to wait 100 years to see the benefit. You got to understand, life is not an on-off switch. It's not a jump process. It's not a either you're at the bottom or you're at the top. It doesn't happen that way. What happens is that you climb to the top slowly but surely. You benefit, just like when on blackwealthmasterplan.com, when I was explaining the $5 a day plan. It's not like when I say that you can be wealthy in a generation, that does not mean you have to wait a generation to start to feel financially secure. The way you want to imagine it is, imagine it like being in a really cold room. Imagine like you're in a room and you're freezing. It's like 10 degrees in that room, and you're freezing almost half to death in this room. And then they say, okay, well, we're going to turn the temperature up. We're going to turn it up to 8 to 73 degrees. Well, the room isn't going to go from freezing to warm all in a second. You're going to start to feel it slowly. First you're freezing to death, then you're going to feel a little bit warmer, and then a little bit warmer, and then you'll be able to take your jacket off, and then eventually you'll be able to just, get in your drawers if you want to, and then eventually you'll be very comfortable in that room. Do you understand? So wealth kind of happens the same way. It's a slow, gradual process, right? So here's what I'm pointing to. Here's what I'm getting at. Just because you're committed to something greater than yourself, that does not mean that you don't benefit from what you're contributing to. Contributing to something greater than yourself means you're also inherently contributing to yourself. So even for a selfish bastard, even for somebody who really thinks heavily about well, what about me? What am I going to get? It's not a complete sacrifice fly. If I'm doing something like the $5 a day investing plan, and after 10 years, I have $29,000 liquid in my bank account, well, that's my money under my control until I pass it to someone else. So now here's the thing, though. I'm still a steward of the family legacy. So that means I have to protect those assets, but I can borrow against that. If I have a financial stressor that pops in my life, I lose my job, or I want to get a property or whatever, guess what? I've got this capital base, and I can borrow against that capital base. I can go to a bank and say, I've got $30,000 worth of stock. That's my collateral. Can I get a loan for $3,000? Can I get a loan for it? Whatever, right? Do you see what I mean? Right? So here's the point. The point is very basic. When we talk about that word repair and reparations, one thing that I don't believe at all is that the only people who can repair our condition are white people. I do believe they owe us reparations. I believe they owe us repair. But if you think about it, if you think about just the concept of repairing something, if my toilet is not working, My plumber is the person that's supposed to come help me repair this. But what if the plumber doesn't show up? Well, I could get on YouTube and still learn how to fix the damn toilet. I can repair myself. And then sometimes what happens is when you actually repair yourself, you find that it might be cheaper than paying $200 to the plumber. Or getting ripped off by some guy that you don't know, having somebody in your house. Do you know one time when I was at University of Kentucky and I was teaching math at that time, a lot of people think that people from the South are all just a bunch of racist rednecks that want to kill black people. That's true, maybe a couple every now and then, but for the most part, the hillbillies I met at University of Kentucky were some of the nicest people ever. There was one guy in my class. It seemed like there was a lot of guys named Russ. Russ was like a very popular name. I literally had two or three friends named Russ. Very strange. Anyway, so Russ, who was a student in my class, had real country guy. He see me, he talked like that. Back on his farm, they farmed tobacco and he could ride horses and stuff. And he was he fit a lot of stereotypes because Russ knew how to fix a car. Like he could take a car apart and put all the places on there and everything. And so anyway, one day, I had a problem with my car and I did not have a lot of money to get it fixed. And so I took my car to the car shop and I was like, well, how much is it going to cost to fix this thing or whatever? They were like, it's going to be $200. So I paid them $200 and they fixed it. Cool. Well, then a month later, the same problem pops up in my car. And this time I don't have the $200. And I call up Russ. And I call Russ. I'm like, hey, Russ. I know you fix cars and stuff, right? Yeah, I do, Mr. Watkins. How can I help you? Well, I got this thing in my car that and it happened the first time. I paid the money and now it broke again, and I don't have any money. What should I do? And he said, well, actually, if you just lift up the right cylinder over there and just put the thing in there, you can actually fix it yourself. I said, but I can't repair the car by myself. I don't know anything about cars. He said, no, just give it a try. You'll actually find it's probably pretty easy, and it ain't worth no $200. I can tell you that right now. And so, do you know, I took my black butt to AutoZone, and I got the part that Russ told me to get, and I just said, okay, let's just try it. I had no choice. I needed my car, so I followed the instructions. I pulled up the little thing. I put the little thing in. Do you know it took me 5 minutes to fix that thing? In 5 minutes. And I said, I'll be damned. They've been ripping me off the whole time. They took advantage of my ignorance. They took advantage of my lack of self-confidence. Follow me now. They took advantage of the fact that because I didn't know things, and also because I didn't have the ambition to go learn these things, and because I didn't have the confidence to believe I was capable of learning these things, they charged me money for my lack of self-confidence. And so this makes me really think about the fact that we often, because we're not confident in ourselves as a community, we often outsource jobs for which we're being overcharged, for which other people are benefiting more than us, where we're being exploited, where people are doing the job the wrong way anyway. These are jobs that we could do ourselves. And the first thing that comes to mind, for example, is the job of educating our kids. We somehow magically believe that other people are better at educating our kids than we are. When we had ancestors who came right out of slavery and were educating kids in one-room schools and doing a better job than the New York City public school system. So here's what I'm getting at. Here's the simple point I want to make. So you go back to the word reparations, which is connected to the word repair. I believe other people are supposed to repair this situation. I believe that they owe us. There's no doubt about it, no doubt in my mind. But I want you to never forget that you can repair yourself. You can do this yourself. If I had a choice between getting a reparations check versus having an ancestor who invested 10% of the family income into the S&P 500, I would certainly rather have the latter than the former, because a reparations check is going to give you a couple dollars and put you ahead. But having a family worth 37 million means that you and all the kids get to live in the lap of luxury for your whole entire life. And as long as you don't trick away the money by doing crazy stuff, you've got a capital base that can create a very comfortable existence for a very large amount of people. $37 million, that's 37 millionaires. That's a lot of money to go around. It's a lot of wealth. Nobody's working for nobody. I think that what we might want to think about as we look at that old video is, okay, remember that you are the ancestors. You're not the new Negroes. We think we're special. Like we're the fancy new modern Negroes. It's modern society. No, yeah, you could look at it like that. It's modern if you compare it to the past, but you're really old fashioned. You're just like those old-fashioned people, those women that wore those big, long, ugly bathing suits. You're in 100 years when they watch videos of you, we're gonna look just as ridiculous as those people with the jalopies that were stuck in the mud, or the people who were freezing to death on the airplanes because they had no cabin pressure. They're gonna look at you, they're gonna laugh at you, right? But they're gonna be curious about you. They're gonna be like, "Wow, those people really did a lot of stuff that set the foundation for all the amazing things that we're doing right now." Because they're gonna believe in 21, 24 that they are the modern Negroes, but they ain't modern. They're old fashioned too. It all depends on perspective. This is why consciousness is important, because consciousness allows you to rise up and elevate where you can see yourself from the past and from the future, from below and from above. You have that ability to reframe everything so you can really understand it. And if you think about it like this, process this, right? This is why consciousness matters. And this is what I want to get back to you, because I think that media and government and educational systems are designed to take away your consciousness, because unconscious people are easy to enslave, unconscious people are easy to exploit, unconscious people are easy to control. I don't want that to happen to you. But think about it like this. If I want to understand a house and I'm looking at a house, I can't understand that house if I only look at it from one angle. If I just stand in front of it and look at it and say, okay, I understand everything now, that's not very smart. If I really want to understand the house, I'm gonna look at it from the east, from the west, from get a drone, look at it from above. I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna look into the history of the house. I'm gonna look at at the infrastructure of the plumbing in the house. I'm gonna look at the foundation of the house. I'm gonna look at it from as many different dimensions as I possibly can, because I want to be very conscious of what I'm investing in, right? So that's what consciousness is. That's why I mentioned the words dimensions. All dimensions are just extra variables that you can lean into to help you understand things from a better perspective. So I want you to go to multiple dimensions. I really believe, and I'm just telling you the truth. I told my sister the other day, I said, sometimes I get real frustrated because I feel like either I'm getting much smarter or the world's just getting dumber, because I got so frustrated like during the pandemic when they were doing things, and I said, "You're gonna have an inflation problem if you keep on spitting money out like this." And now we got an inflation problem. Or even when they were talking about the shots and everything, I said, you're ignoring Harvard professors and censoring them. Like, shouldn't you at least listen to these people to see what they have to say? Now they're all coming back and apologizing. We're sorry. We found out ivermectin wasn't just, a horse tranquilizer. It's actually this respected drug around the world. I said, yeah, because that was in a published journal. It's the information was there. You were just not looking at it. Right? That's what goes through my mind. And I told my sister, I said, I gotta learn how to be patient. Because really, the more I focus on trying to be conscious, the more I get angry, because I'm like, don't you see it? Don't you see it? So what I'm gonna try to do to be a better voice, to be conscious of myself, is to say, wait. You see a couple of things, and you have to be patient with those who can't see that yet. But also, the interesting thing about seeing more things is that you realize how little you actually see. Right? So I encourage you to just kind of meditate on stuff. Just think about stuff like that. Like, so that little video that I showed you, from 1924, to me, it's very fascinating. It's really interesting to see where people were 100 years ago. But I really want you to look at it, and I want you to imagine yourself in that time and say, what would have happened if I just took 10% of our little family income and invested that money? Well, your family would be extremely wealthy. And then now that you're in 2024, do the same thing. Like my grandmama really used to say, I put aside 10% for the Lord. Well, put aside 10% for yourself, 10% for your family, 10% for your legacy, 10% for your descendants, 10% for everyone else. Now someone's asking, can I drop a link to the video? Yeah, let me grab the link to the video. And also, while I do that, because we're gonna close up soon, because we got our portfolio power play in a little bit. The other thing I want to mention is that for today only, we're going to do 70% off in the Dr. Boyce financial literacy. I'm sorry, 60% off. I'm sorry, 60%. But yeah, for today only, everything is 60% off. That's 60% off our flashcards for kids, 60% off my books, 60% off anything that you want to buy in the store. So, and it's 24 hours. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, you can go to drboycebooks.com, and the code word, write this down in the chat. It's all one word, Today only 2024. So it's all one word, today only 2024. So if you go to drboycebooks.com and type in today only 2024 at checkout, you get 60% off everything in the store, and that's for today only, of course, because that's what it says. All right, so let me grab this link to this video. I'm trying to find it. And I'll put this in the chat so you guys can go take a look at it on your own if you want to. And I really just think stuff like this is so powerful because it really just is such a reminder that we're not new, that all this stuff that's here, like somebody had to plan this, somebody had to make that decision to make these things exist. And even highways, when I read about how much work they put into forming the highway system, I was blown away. I mean, think about all these freeways that just happen to go all across the country. And so in the 1950s, Eisenhower and everybody else decided to invest billions of dollars so we would have this highway system going all throughout our country. And it's not because they were just thinking so much about you and I. I don't think they did it saying we want to make sure future generations can travel from New York to California easily. They were probably thinking about themselves for sure, but they were also making investments. And generally speaking, if you look at your life and you want to achieve whatever goal you have in your life, I would encourage you to just understand basic rules about that. That typically success does not happen by accident. Success happens with a plan. Success happens with investing. Those who contribute and sacrifice heavy on the front end get heavy rewards in the back end. If you want big rewards in the back end, you must make big sacrifices on the front end. If you do not make big sacrifices on the front end, you will have no rewards on the back end. So if you find yourself on the back end not getting the rewards that you want, I think you got to look back and say what sacrifices were made on the front end in order to get there. And the trick about economics in America is that people that get up and go to work every day are making a sacrifice. When you get up and you're serving that boss, you're making a hell of a sacrifice. When you do that dangerous job, that's a hell of a sacrifice. When you're out spending money at the mall, that's a hell of a sacrifice. And so there is a reward for that sacrifice. The problem is that the reward ends up going to somebody else, and that's not what you want. That's why ownership is so important. Now, one thing that I want to mention, someone asked, what's the link to the store? It's drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. Someone mentioned, or you were asking about a bundle that was out of stock. If you see something that's out of stock, you can email our support team and see if we can get it back in stock or if they can give you the pieces of the bundle. Just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. So yeah, so again, the URL for the store is drboycebooks.com. The discount is 60% off anything that you want in the store today only. That's literally anything that you buy. The code is today only 2024. That's all one word, today only 2024. Okay, guys. So I hope that this conversation was beneficial to you. I want you to think about that one investing piece. If you can get that 10% and consistently put that into the market, there's going to be massive benefits for people ahead of you. And also, in fact, I'm even thinking about adding that to the Black Wealth Master Plan. If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, you'll see the $5 a day plan, but really also the whole master plan in terms of our children is every Black child should learn how to start a business by the age of 12 in case they can't get a job. Number two, every Black child should own stock by the age of 5 with someone making consistent investments on their behalf. Number three, every Black child should be in a position by the age of 21 to put a down payment down on a property, and they will be in that position if you do number two. If you follow number two, number three will naturally arise. And I think I want to add a fourth. I'm going to think about this where all of us just commit to investing 10% of our income so that you can have wealth for a rainy day. So you will be financially protected, but also that protection is something that you can transfer onto other people. It's something that will grow over time. And again, like I was saying, if someone in 1924 had an average income, I'm talking about an average income. I'm talking about people, some of y'all have above average income. Some of y'all are making six figures, but I'm not talking about the six-figure people in 1924. I'm talking about the people that had average regular jobs making regular money. 10% of that money invested in the S&P 500 since 1924 would lead to a family worth $37 million. So imagine if you made double the average income and you did the same rule. Well, now your family's not worth 37 million. Your family would be worth 74 million, almost 100 million for some of you. So anyway, if you want to see the $5 day plan, you can go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. The Black Wealth Master Plan is our plan for how we're going to dominate financially by the year 2070. It's going to take time, but over time, time, you're going to see this slow escalation. We started the plan in 2013. You can already see it. You see the culture changing, things like that. And this is something that I planned. I thought I started thinking about this in 2006. So all these changes that we're seeing in terms of Black people talking about wealth and embracing wealth, this was something I knew was going to occur. Because I just studied what does it take to persuade hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to make the adjustments, tiny adjustments in their economic life that will lead to big outcomes. And the other piece of it too that I realized a long time ago is that I don't need to convince everybody. I don't need to appeal to every single person. I'm not trying to be Martin Luther King or somebody like that, or even Marcus Garvey. I'm not trying to be that. I'm trying to be a guy that's going to influence the influencers. I want to help support the leaders, which is you and I. You're the talented 10th. Because here's the thing, if the talented 10th have a plan, then the people that don't have a plan, or the people that don't know what's going on, or the people that are not prepared, they're going to follow behind the people that have the plan. They're going to follow behind the people that have the power and the wealth. Do you understand? So when I make you wealthy, when we talk about ways you and your family can be the rich kids on the block, you're sitting on 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, whatever. It doesn't matter if your ignorant cousin doesn't believe any of this stuff. He's going to come work for you because you can pay him more than he's making at the factory. Do you understand? Do you understand that? Like, do you understand that money is power? Like, so the same way white folks been dragging you around by your nose your whole entire life, getting you to change or uproot your whole life because they don't offer you a job making it with a 10% pay raise. Well, you have that ability to lead people, but to do it in a good way, to do it in a loving way. I don't think that they lead and manipulate us because they care about us. They lead and manipulate us for their own benefit. But you can also lead people and persuade them to do things that are going to benefit them long term. Like, so really, if I become a billionaire or something like that, I'm going to create financial incentives for every single Black family to learn certain elements of financial literacy. I'll say, I'll give you money if you learn this. If you don't learn it, I'm not giving you anything. But if you learn this, which I know is good for you, then I'll pay you to do that. And I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. Money is power. Money is power. Money is power. Money is power. Don't you forget it. Go get some. Be powerful. Be successful. That's how you're gonna move this world. So anyway, guys, I gotta go. Again, if you want to take advantage of the discounts in the store for today only, the Black Wealth store is amazing. It's a great resource for any family that wants to get ahead or figure things out. You can go to drboycebooks.com, and the code to get the 60% discount for today only, the code is literally today only 2024. So that's all one word. So type today only 2024 and you'll get the 60% discount on your way out. All right, guys, I got to go. I will see you at the Portfolio Power Play a little bit later. For those who want to come, make sure you get on the text list. In fact, I'll invite you all on the text list if you want to join us. It's going to be in an hour from now. I guess, what is this? It's 11 Eastern. So wait, is it 11 Eastern or yeah, 11 Eastern. So we started 12 Eastern. Yeah. So text the word morning to 87948 if you're not on the text list already. If you text morning to 87948, I will send you the link so you can join us for the Portfolio Power Play. There's a lot to talk about with what's going on with some of these stocks. So I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day. Take it easy. Bye-bye.